always a fantastic spectacle to see boxing and to see anything that you're involved in. But where on earth did you think, do you know what? I'm just going to put it on in my back garden. When did that great moment dawn on you?
I think once we realised how serious the pandemic was and how long this lockdown would take, and before we returned, I think we just started thinking outside the box. I've always, looked out here and thought this would be a great place to host live sport. We've had media events here before with a Ring in the Garden. I just think people are more comfortable with performing, hosting events, working on events outdoors at the moment. So had the idea about 3 or 4 months ago, and slowly it's gone into fruition. Probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we nearly jacked it in. It's difficult, there are so many barriers to overcome, whether it be distancing, whether it be testing, whether it be keeping the fighters in quarantine. But finally, Saturday night, we did it, and it couldn't have gone better, to be honest with you. So it's great to see boxing back, and hopefully we can keep pressing on. This will become a thing of the past in a couple of months, and we can return to arenas. But of course, listening to your show so far, waves pending and all sorts, but we had to get on with it. We had to bounce back for our sport, and I think we did that in style. A global audience that loved what we delivered at Fight Camp here on Saturday.
It was extraordinary, Eddie. I know a few other promoters have put some events on. There's been events in the BT studios, there's been events here and there, but it was the scale of what you did on Saturday night. I sat down, as you know, I love my boxing. I sat down to watch not just the headline fight, which was just an extraordinary boxing combat, sort of meeting of these two fighters was amazing. But it was the whole thing. Just talk everyone through the infrastructure, what you've put into place and the costs involved, considering you have no audience there, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. Obviously we drive a lot of revenue through the gate. That doesn't exist anymore. So we know that luckily we've built a solid business over the last 30 years here that can sustain this period. But we can't just come back with bland production and just sort of dribble the sport back. I'd rather not do it, to be quite honest with you. And I've seen boxing return in sort of dark, soulless studios. That's not for me. We've built boxing off the razzmatazz and the great nights, and everybody loves the Anthony Joshua fights with 90,000 people and singing and dancing, a few beers and Sweet Caroline, but that doesn't exist at the moment. But we're not competing right now, I don't feel, against other promoters. We're competing against other sports. So I wasn't prepared to sit back and just let boxing dwindle out the fire that we've built so hard over that last 10 years. I wanted to come back with a bang. So we did go a little bit OTT, the fireworks, the pyrotechnics and stuff like that. But I know that people looked on from around the world and said, wow, boxing is a major sport. And I'm very passionate about the sport of boxing. I feel like it's the greatest sport of all. So we're working hard on that. In terms of the infrastructure here, obviously, you see a large build behind me. The lawn's not going to look too great after a couple of weeks of that. But the biggest challenge really is bringing fighters into what's now known as the bubble in sports. So today, this week, Fight Camp Week 2 is on Friday night. So the fighters will arrive at the hotel down the road today. They will be tested. They will then go to their room. They won't be able to leave their room until they receive a negative test result. Then they will be allowed out just within the hotel, which is among people who have also tested negative, and that's what we call the bubble. So the fight week activity, their training, the press conferences, the weigh-in, all our Matchroom Boxing YouTube content, Sky Sports, etc. will be filmed down there in the bubble, and then on Friday night they make their way here. Ben, you know how tough the sport of boxing is. I wanted to build a platform for them and a stage for them to go out and achieve, to thrive, to peak and try and achieve their dreams. And I think what we saw on Saturday was fighters who were pumped to perform here, and we got a great spectacle. And I just feel that in a soulless studio, performing and even staging events without spectators is difficult enough. Like I said, from a live event feel, the spectators are, virtually everything in terms of the production and the energy of an event. So it's very difficult to do that without. I feel like we're off to a great start, taking on the feedback and improving for this Friday.
Yeah, so it's this Friday, and then you go on towards the 22nd of August, which is actually a box office night, because you've got an extraordinary lineup there. Dillian Whyte fighting Alexander Povetkin, and of course, the fight that I'm really excited about, because we had Katie in after she beat Pursoon last time. Katie Taylor fighting again. It's the rematch of that fight that happened in New York that lots of people felt that Katie was lucky to get away with the result. I heard you talking about this, about how it would be very easy for Katie to duck this fight. She doesn't need to beat her again, but actually, because it's Katie Taylor, she wants to prove to everybody it was the right result. I mean, the climax of Fight Camp is going to be a huge night, isn't it? And all in your back garden, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, 4 weeks in total. Obviously, we've just done Saturday. This Friday, actually, is the first ever British all-women's World Championship fight between Terri Harper and Natasha Jonas. And then we go next Friday as well. And then Saturday, August 22nd, it's the big finale. Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin. And as you said, Katie Taylor against Delphine Persoon, which, you know, had 20,000 people on their feet at Madison Square Garden last June. One of the best fights I've ever witnessed live. And, you know, she wants to take the challenge on again. Like you said, there are people who believe she didn't win that fight and she wants to prove them wrong. And it's amazing, Ben, to be, you know, I was standing here on Saturday thinking, Dillian Whyte and Alexander Povetkin and Katie Taylor will rematch Persoon there. You know, it's so strange when you're here to see World Championship boxing here in this environment. But it's the world we live in. You've got to expect the unexpected. You've got to think on your feet. We hope this isn't the new norm, but we hope in the meantime we can bring boxing back to extraordinary levels and everyone can enjoy it at home.
Well, it's a great idea. Now, Anthony Joshua is one of your fighters, isn't he? Tyson Fury, I understand a deal has been done. They are going to fight each other. Do you have a date?
Would this happen in the back garden, Eddie?
Well, I'd love it to, but I think we need to wait for crowds to come back for that one. So both guys have agreed, but both guys have those interim fights as well. Anthony Joshua's got to fight Kubrat Pulev probably in December, and Tyson Fury has to rematch Deontay Wilder probably in December as well. But both guys have agreed to 2 fights next year. I think you'll see the first one of those in the summer. As we know with boxing politics, you've got Dillian Whyte is actually the mandatory challenger for Tyson Fury as well if he can beat Alexander Povetkin here on August the 22nd. So I think we need the world to calm down before we can bring back that undisputed fight. But, you know, hopefully we can return to normality later this year. And in the meantime, we can keep boxing thriving with events like these.
Well, looking forward to Friday night. Can't wait for the 22nd as well, Eddie. I mean, you say it's a little bit OTT, but you're in the heart of Essex. Nothing's over the top in Essex.
I don't go anywhere without
That's just a standard Friday night, isn't it?
It's the only way. It's the only way.
Eddie, great to see you. Thank you for hanging around. And also, we're thrilled that you got through a live TV interview without swearing as well. That everyone was on tenterhooks here after your...
Shamal!
It made me love you
I'm
even
never going to
more.
live it down. I was down my road yesterday and I went past someone on a bike and he leant out the window and shouted, Shamal! And then the obscenities as well. So, listen, it is what it is. As long as I can put a smile on your face, I don't mind.
You certainly did. It's going to be the catchphrase that stays with you. Eddie, thank you for joining us. And best of luck with the rest of Fight Club as well.
Thanks, guys.